Hello, this is Lisa LaRose here on Connect to Love on PRN-FM, and I am joined by two amazing gentlemen. One you know each week as Michael J. Russ. I want to say welcome, Michael. So nice to have you. I'm giving you a great big etheric hug. And the other gentleman we have joining us is none other than Eric Alexandrakis. And for any of our audience members who do not know Eric, you are in for an absolute delight. He embraces the unknown and imagines the world of so many amazing things and has an incredible sense of curiosity and a sense of adventure as he approaches the world and the mysteries of life. And I have no qualms about saying that being with Eric and looking at his art and his music and everything else it just fills my soul with so much joy. And it reminds me that discovery and exploration is at our fingertips. So I just want to extend a big, huge, warm welcome to you, Eric. I'm so grateful that you're able to join us this week.
Yeah.
You need to be my publicist.
Well, I'll claim that job. No problem.
Cool. All right, you're hired.
No problem. And, before we delve into anything, I'd love for you, just for our audience members who aren't familiar with your music or your journey, could you just give us a few minutes of wonderful Eric Alexandrakis' background?
A few minutes. Time Grammy nominated. I produced the first digitally watermarked CD in grad school 30 years ago this year. Collaborated with various luminaries, John Malkovich, members of The Cure and The Smiths and Duran Duran and Yoko Ono and so on, and did some films that shortlisted in Cannes, and had cancer twice, and what else? I like the color orange.
Oh, like Michael. That's wonderful.
My favorite,
and I'll add to
color.
that,
my favorite
your
color.
Your music has entertained and inspired thousands of individuals all over the world, and it inspires me. I will add that to that.
Giving you a publicist bonus.
Yep, there you go. Inspired. That's a trail of accomplishments and opportunities to move forward in life. And you are here. You're smiling. You've got places to go, people to see, and things to do, and you're doing it with a smile on your face, I'm assuming.
People tell me that all the time, and I feel like, this is going to sound so weird, I literally feel like I haven't accomplished hardly anything. Probably because I have a million ideas in my head, and probably because being threatened with mortality at an early age kind of has made me feel like time is always running out. But I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface, and yet many tell me that I've had several lifetimes of experiences and things, but I don't know. I don't see it that way, but thank you.
Interesting.
Well, I will just, I'm going to give a plug for a movie that I saw, it was just amazing, called Cabrini, and it was about Mother Cabrini, who I really honestly did not know much about. And she, as a young girl, was drowning and was, as she said, saved by this hand that reached in and pulled her out. But it left her with a health challenge. And when she came to the United States, they basically said, you have about 2 years left to live if you rest. And she said, well, that's not going to happen. I've got a lot to do. And she ended up passing away at like 67. I think she was in her 30s when she came to the U.S. This was early in the 1800s. And the things that she overcame, and she just knew that she had something to bring to this world. And she ended up founding 67 orphanages, schools, hospitals. Amazing. I think they have a shrine in Colorado to her, and also one in New York. I didn't know very much about her, first American saint. So I looked at it and I thought, you know what? You never know, and all the things that you're guided to do. And I think, as you mentioned, Eric, you have this whole, it's just this treasure house of gifts that want to be explored and shared with the world. And you do that, and you have mastered, I think, sort of facing the art of the unknown. You've navigated a lot of uncertainties in your life with not only confidence and curiosity, but also with attention. And I'd love to find out, like, how do you sort of balance what you want to bring in, like, with the normal flow of everyday life?
It's very frustrating. I mean, my only obstacle is time. So my only frustration is that I'll go 16 hours on a work day, and I'll be like, damn it, why do I have to go to sleep? It's you get into a creative groove, and the thing is, if I don't go to sleep, then the next day is a mess. So I end up losing more time. So I don't know. It's almost like an instinct of survival. I have to do something creative, even the smallest little thing, during the day, or I feel like the entire day is wasted. It could be just 5 minutes of playing to something. So I can't turn it off. I watch TV commercials and I'm rearranging the music, and it's on all the time. So I don't know. It's hard. It's just I have to be on all the time. And
I've been there.
Yeah, you know how
what I can tell you is, I've been to that place that you described where you have to do something during the day to feel like you've accomplished something, right?
Yeah.
And that it's that sense of accomplishment. And if I might, expound upon that, for me, I discovered it was because nothing that I engage in during the day in my normal course of life and business has an ending to it. I could get up, leave my desk after 8 hours, go downstairs and eat, do something completely different, go out and see some friends or whatever, and the next morning I get up, I could walk back into my office and pick up exactly where I left off the day before, right? Mm-hmm. There's no ending to it. So when there's no end, I have to go off and do projects, things that have an ending point to them, something where I can look at it and I can have a sense of accomplishment because I've completed it, right? Yeah. And if you're in a situation where you are, and I know what it's like to be in a studio. You're always perfecting something. You're putting something in. You've got an idea about something you want to add to it. You do it. And is it ever absolutely the perfect thing you envisioned? Likely not. It's because nothing ever can be. It's like you have to accept the fact that nothing is going to be absolutely perfect. It's going to be awesome. Somebody else will say, oh, that's just perfect as is. And you're going to go, well, I think that if I had done this way or done that way, if I tweaked that or I put that in or took that out, there's always going to be something. We have to, at some particular point, be accepting of the finished product and move on to the next thing, right? Because there is no perfection. It's an absolute moving target that you're never going to hit. When you think you've got it, you don't. It's moved for you. So you have to say, okay, that's it. I've got it. This is it. And so I'll go out and pick up pine cones in the yard and complete that project, put them out at the street, and I'll get my sense of accomplishment. Or I'll take the car and get it washed and detail it myself, and that'll give me a sense of accomplishment because I can look at it and know that I'm finished, and there's nothing else that I can do. And you have to have that kind of in your life, because otherwise, the sense of there's no finality. It's just one day to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and one song to the next song to the next song, and you're going like, okay, I'll do this, So, and there's always something somebody's going to ask you to do. There's always, I guess this is what you can answer this question better than I can, but wouldn't that be what producers are for? To tell you, hey, this is good enough.
Yeah. I that's a role I do often for others. I'm good at saying good enough for rock and roll. and stopping and saying, because you could fiddle for all eternity, and I know people who do. And I tell them, I'm like, listen, if you replay that, it's not going to sell an extra million. Just, it does its job. Are you satisfied with it? I'm satisfied with it, but I can play it better. Okay, can you play? You can't play it better. You can play it differently.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
But for me, I think I'm in a bit of a unique position due to experiences, and my brain just does not stop, and it's a struggle to balance normalcy with my creative overload in my head. But without it, I think I would go insane because it keeps me balanced.
Well, you figured that out at least. That for sure is what keeps you balanced. And more than anything else, in my view, that's priceless. It really is priceless. So
there just aren't enough hours in the day. I mean, it's you have to have these meetings, you have to do this, you have to do that, but then you really have to put time aside to make something or work on something. It could take 6 hours just to get an idea. I mean, it does it for me, but some people. So there's just not enough hours in the day. I keep thinking, what if humans were conditioned to go 30 hours? And, if only the sun went down after, 30 hours or whatever it was. And so I fantasize about things like that, which probably are not particularly healthy. But, hey, to each his own.
Well, we talked about this actually on an episode a few episodes ago that I cheat and I use the frequencies that Dr. Jeffrey Thompson developed in his music, and he has a delta sleep system, and he has one that is like a nap CD, so you can do a 5-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute, and you wake up and you think, this is so ridiculous, there's no way possible that I can feel refreshed. But I'll tell you, it works. And maybe it's the placebo, but I don't think so. I've been using delta sleep for a long time, and I get ridiculously little hours of sleep just because of the nature of my dogs and all of the other things that need done in a day. And but I wake up very rested. And
there's a lot of science. There's a lot of science based upon sound waves and the nervous system, and you hear your favorite song and it changes your mood completely, and heartbeats 100%. And all that stuff. So, I think people who tend to scoff at things like that haven't read enough. And, they think it's a magical thing. Well, it depends on your definition of magic. I mean, if I hear a great song and it completely changes my mood, yeah, that's magic. But it's affecting, frequencies are affecting, it's the same when I hear metal. I'm just like, oh, God, what is it? How does anyone listen to this? And it makes me nauseous. It's the same exact thing, so,
very good point.
Certain sounds.
You wonder about it. The beautiful thing is, we were talking about choices and consequences and the energy of choice and how people happen to somehow just continue to make the same choices that lead to the same consequences, but don't really recognize that that's what they're doing. They want a different experience, yet they continue to make the same choices doing the same things, right? That the definition of stress obviously is trying to get a different result from doing something without changing anything. And we have to at some point change anything. It's interesting because my brother, an actor, my sister, who's an entrepreneur as well, and she has a lot of creative music endeavors and that she does for early childhood education. Both of them are up till 4 and 5 in the morning. Yeah. And I'm asleep at 10:30.
Yeah, I stopped doing that. I had to stop doing that a few years ago.
Yeah. Going to bed till 4 or 5. I mean, they literally are nocturnal doing things, and that's the way it is. Because if you're an actor, you're running till it's done. You may have a 16-hour day, 18-hour day, and you're filming in the day, you're shooting at night, and there is no. That's a whole different schedule to be on And if you're a creative and you're an entrepreneur, you'll take whatever time, whatever hours are needed in order to accomplish your objective. And after doing that for many years, I had to shift to the business world, which is, in essence, getting up at 5:30 and going to bed at some reasonable hour, because that's what I had to do in order to function all day long. While everybody else is sleeping, brother and sister are sleeping, I'm working. And I've enjoyed that balance a lot more, and it's been something that I've gotten used to over a couple of decades. And to each his own. You have to roll with what you roll with. I can't identify, of course, with the aspect of your being incredibly creative, and your mind is always busy thinking about something, some creative endeavor, some idea. For me, I just simply write them down on a notepad on my phone and then move on. I have to get them out of my head. That's really the most important thing. I know you have a mechanism for that, but that's what I do. I'll either carry around a notebook and I'll write the idea down and get it out of my head and keep moving, because then I have something, a point of reference. And I know people who can't sleep. I was just talking to a friend who said, I have trouble sleeping. Why? Because my mind is so busy with a lot of different things. I said, why don't you sit down before you go to bed, write down all the things you need to do the next day so that you're not dreaming about them, thinking about them while you're trying to go to sleep. And
good idea.
Write down every nuance of whatever it is, and put the notepad by your bedside. And if you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about something you might have forgotten, literally take the notepad and write it down, and then go back to sleep. Just get it out of your head. Very, very important. We have ideas, I realize, with me, and I know it probably is likely with you as well, is that these ideas come. They're intuited here, and they're here now, right? And we don't want to lose them. We want to act on them. However, in most cases, we can't necessarily in that moment act on them because we're doing something else. And yet we're set like, I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose that, though. And that's the only way to do it, is literally to have something by your side that you can, a pen and paper, a notepad. I've gone through at least 24 notepads in the past 20 years, just writing stuff down. Now, am I going to go back and revisit? Some of them I do. Others are just thoughts that I need to get out of my head. And it's a practical way of actually doing it. If you can train yourself to do it, to have it with you at all times, it's a godsend, because you know that you have the satisfaction of knowing that you saved the thought, and now you can revisit that thought later when you want to sit down and expand upon it. But to go back 10 minutes from now and go, oh God, what was that thought I was thinking of? What was that? It was such a great idea. It's brutal, because that's just a waste of time. If you're going, I had a great idea, I lost it, let me think about it, what was it again? Because they're coming and they're going. They can be very fleeting. It's just the way the universe works. We're receivers.
We are.
We are receivers.
For you, Eric, I know there is just boundless curiosity in the world, and there's so many things. What I really love about connecting with you when you shared your story about how you met Duran Duran, and how you just embraced the thrill of the adventure and the joy of the journey, and the people that you've connected with. And I think that one of your heroes is William Shatner, and go boldly. And I think that that's really what a lot of what you're doing when you're bringing this creativity through. There's this journey and the joy of discovering all these different things, and then there's the power of awe, and you're like, wow, that would be really cool. And you snapshot different aspects. And so how do you, because we're talking about choice, how do you choose what you want to bring out next? Do you is it a feeling in your heart that this is what the world needs, or this is what my soul needs to express? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
It's all timing, if I feel like, because I have to monetize, of course, to pay the bill. So it really depends upon a certain climate that I'm working within a succession of maybe sonics. Like, does it make sense to put out an electronic album after an Americana album? No, because that might be taken as unfocused. So you kind of have to gradually, say Americana, and then maybe something a little heavier, a little maybe rock thing, and then something with maybe a little rock thing, a little electronics, and then do something, put out the electronic thing. So, or with Malkovich, there's like 20 tracks that haven't been released. So the 10-year anniversary of filming our film Hell, which the first vinyls we did was part of, is this year. So then it's like, wouldn't it be great? Yeah, wouldn't it be great to like get the rest of those out in like a big limited edition thing of like 40 tracks. So it's, you have to kind of involve the business sense of it to make it so that you're just not throwing stuff out there. Like, everything has to monetize somehow in some way, whether it gets me the next gig for scoring this, or it leads to an intro to that, or some sort of licensing thing. So it's that. But because a lot of those projects are in different forms. Some are done, some are just demoed, some are half recorded, some are this. And I tend to kind of go back to one depending upon my mood. So if I've been listening to songs from my youth, because I'm a child of the 80s, and for a week, then I'll maybe chip away at the album that's called Dance Like It's Named 1984, which is all like 80s vibe, kind of an ode to my childhood. Or
which was very fun music, by the way. Very fun music.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's like, for me, it was like 77. I mean, the 70s is the most creative decade ever. There's never going to be anything like it. Like, it blows my mind. Like, you get Kraftwerk to Genesis to Yes to the Ramones to Chic to Boney M, and I mean and Neil Young, and I mean Led Zeppelin. I mean it blows my mind.
So much happened in 10 years.
So much happened. I mean, such a wide berth. It's never going to happen. I mean, the 90s were similar, but not as innovative. It was kind of like an attempt to rehash it. But like the 80s for me, like when you're 10 years old or 12 years old, they say is your most musically your most impressionable years creatively. So that just happened to fall at that time, and MTV was, doing its thing, and I just became obsessed and would consume, and I didn't have money to buy music. I had I would mow lawns for like $1 a pop. I remember the first record I ever bought was Duran Duran's 7 and the Ragged Tiger with the Reflex on it, and I mowed lawns for like 8 months at $1 a pop to save. And I rode I rode my bike to go get it. I was 32 cents short, so I rode my bike back to the house and found like 32 pennies in the couch, and I got my record. And
that's awesome. That's a choice, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was what I learned from that record, especially on the vocal harmony side. I literally apply it to pretty much everything I do. Like, what I learned from that was like Simon would use these very unpredictable harmonies, but also very classical sounding. Whereas today you'll hear like Justin Timberlake and whatnot, and they'll use very logical and obvious note choices, within a chord. But he would take it to a place where you're just like, wow, I never would have thought to do that way. And I was being classically trained at the time, and I noticed, and it made an impression on me to where I was like, you know what, I'm never going to do the obvious. And it was just from hearing that harmony approach, that instilled this kind of lifelong approach to life, just from that little, harmony in New Moon on Monday on the chorus. You know, you never know where inspiration can come from. So, so yeah, what was the question again? I forgot.
I think you answered it.
You did.
See my attention span, how good it is?
Yeah,
but
you know, it lets us know that the creative process is not linear. Okay, it's
no.
not. It's this. It's intuition on steroids. You know, and being intuitive on steroids, allowing the being open to, I should say, being open to being influenced by everything that's around you. I mean, literally,
you got to be open to exploration.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
You know?
if you have an idea about what it is that you want, it's kind of like manifestation. Everybody says, you know, some people. 30 years ago, it was like, hey, yeah, focus on what you want. Make sure you know the amount, the time frame, this, that you. And nowadays, it's no. All that's wrong. Yeah, you just have to let it happen. You have the idea, and then you just work with it, massage it like a piece of clay. And it's not. It may end up being completely different than what you initially thought it might be. But if you hold on to that thing, it's only going to be this, then you're really cutting your legs off of the kneecaps. You're not really giving yourself the full opportunity to be as creative, because the creative process continues to unfold.
I hear people all the time who are like, I have writer's block. I'm like, how can you have writer's block? I can't relate to that. Like, I'm never dry of ideas. I've never been dry. I've never been. It's weird. Maybe because I listen to so many types of music. I watch a lot of films. I consider myself like a student of cinema, you know. So like I watch a lot of films, and you know, classic films especially, where filmmaking just was on a whole other level. I mean, you watch like Lawrence of Arabia, and there's a scene in the desert, and it looks like there's like 10,000 people, and then your brain automatically is like, they just edited those in. You're like, no, they didn't. That's 10,000 people. That's 10,000 extras.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, right. In those days, absolutely.
Here's the interesting thing about that, though. You have to. I mean, in those days, the fascinating thing about film at that particular time is that the editing process was not the end-all, be-all like it is today. Everything's editing now. And you know, you're cutting, you're jumping, you're doing all these various things with edits to kind of make the film interesting. Back then, it was like you had 50 pages of dialogue, and you had very few edits. The camera went from one person to another, and or it did a 2-shot or a 3-shot. Everybody's talking, and you're having this banter that's going around, and everybody knows their lines and they're acting them, and you're like, wow, where's the edit here? What? There's no edit. There's no edit. There's nothing going on.
Yeah, you know, it's like one shot. Yeah, I mean, there's this one shot. I can't remember what. I think it was a Hitchcock film. There's a few of them, but like there's this one scene. I forget which film it is, but it's like it starts in the ceiling, and then it twists around and spins and does this kind of weird kind of spinning thing, and then it focuses in on like the actress's hand or her purse or shoe or something. I can't remember what it was. And, you know, of course, they probably did that a few times. But there are scenes where, like, dining room scenes I remember seeing in, like, some old film where, like, going across, like, a dining room that's, like, 100 feet long, and they're catching action from everybody. I mean, you know, and it's all on tape, for God's sake, you know, film. So I'm in awe of that stuff. I mean, you know, you see, like, Gone with the Wind, and, I mean, The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind were basically made in the same year by the same director. Well, Gone with the Wind had several directors, and so did Gone with the Wind. But like Victor Fleming was basically credited mostly for those two. And so I love reading about old Hollywood, and I love old Hollywood history and just how they made all those things. And so that affects how I like to do things, because I don't like. I usually don't do second takes unless something's really messed up, and that's such not a taboo these days, where everything is quantized and pitch corrected and all that. I need to hear the spaces between the spaces, and when you run a drummer's drums through software, I mean, I'll just play it off of a synth with my fingers. It doesn't make any sense to me. But then but when you send it out for reviews, sometimes people are like, wow, this sounds weird. Something's wrong with the drums. It's played. That's why.
Yeah,
it was played. That's why.
Yeah.
They weren't synth.
They hear like the air between the notes, and it sounds weird to them, which is mind-boggling. You get Vinnie Colaiuta in there, or Steve Ferroni, and they're doing like, two of the greatest drummers ever, played on just Herbie Hancock and all kinds of just amazing things, and Weckl, and I would never even dream. I would have never dreamed to like quantize anything, even if it's just a little bit off. I think it's insulting. But like it's become they strive for this perfection, but it's not perfection. It's feelingless. But in a corporate setting now, with the way art in general is presented, there's reboots and reboots and reboots and reboots and trying to capture the familiar and lower overhead and just the sure kind of thing. It's
right.
It's turned into a quagmire. It's turned into a quagmire. And it's probably in some ways, but like I have a single coming out called Pain, which is I think 4 takes, just straight takes of me just messing about with different pieces of gear for like 7 minutes. All done, just 4 takes, different pieces of gear. And there's screaming, there's noises, it sounds horrible, but I don't care. It does what I wanted it to do, and it's kind of a surprise, So my whole perception and view of creation is very different than what the mainstream thinks it is.
But I love it. I mean, I think back to when somebody like Thomas Dolby came out. She blinded me with science. It was so unusual for the time. And a lot of the music that's come out, but I think it's having that commitment to being true to who you are, and that is just to me like just more precious than any diamond. Because
who like the only band, mainstream huge band that I see today who is literally like, we don't care, we're going to do it our way, is Depeche Mode. Like
one of my faves.
They will sell $100 million worth of tickets a month before they even go on the road. It's amazing. And they make these like quirky little electronic records that have some catchy tunes. I think they're better now than they were back in the 80s days. Like they're much more interesting for me right now. Because back then there was a certain level of commercial approach that they had to do, even though a lot of it is great music back then. But today, I mean, they're in their early 60s, and they're like the most edgy band out there. And, this whole thing, old artists. Like, old artists are the guys with the experience and the guys with the stories and the guys, I guess all the time, it's like, why do you play with, like, these older guys? I'm like, why would I not? They're the ones with the chops. They're the ones with the stories. They're the ones who've done so many things. I'm going to say, no, I'm going to play with a younger guy just because he's a younger guy. I don't want any younger guys unless they're extraordinary.
That's awesome.
But I want to play with, like, the guitarists from The Cure and John Taylor and Robert Fripp. And these are the cool guys. These are the gods from where I'm sitting that I look up to. And I want to be associated with that. And it's like this whole ageist thing. Like, age is just nonsense, just a number. So
that's great. That is great.
Yeah.
You're right, though. Yeah, they know everything. They were there.
Then you see, they were there, and you see all these reaction videos from kids watching like music from when we grew up. Of all ages, whatever, and they're blown away. Like, they watch Def Leppard and they're like, this song is amazing, and they have always been amazing songwriters. You listen to that record, Hysteria. I mean, the craftsmanship and the writing on there is really incredible. It's just sometimes the hair and all that stuff, it kind of eclipses that. But, that and the Beatles, they listen to the Beatles and the Stones and T-Rex and, and these kids are hearing it, and it's not what the industry likes. They want to be able to push a brand that they own all around and focus all their energy on that. But they don't get it. They don't get it.
Well, that's what's kept the longevity of the music, because it to me it's just timeless, truly.
It's just really, I really get a kick out of seeing young kids watching stuff, reacting to stuff that I grew up with, or stuff from Count Basie, or stuff from way back, and just going crazy over it and recognizing it for what it is. And I think if the industry kind of embraced that more, they actually make a lot more money.
That's very, very true. A lot of rediscovery with YouTube and the like nowadays with regard to music. People there's much more access than there was back then. It was just basically a radio station, or somebody who had a record store, whatever it might be. But today you can access music from anywhere, and that makes a difference. So a lot of acts that you can create your little niche with regard to people who love your music. You can create a niche, and you in a way that you couldn't in the past, and which makes it a lot easier for you to go out on the road. And I'm sure Depeche Mode is being discovered by a lot of young people now, and that's what's driving the music business, driving the ticket selling business for concerts and shows. It's not just it's rediscovery. It's kind of like the films. What they want to do with films, they take a popular film from the 70s or the 80s, and they make an iteration of it with new, younger actors who are familiar with people, who command the screen now, right? It's
and
an old
rarely
movie.
Works.
You and I've seen it. It rarely works. That's so true.
Yeah.
It rarely works. I'm going there's no creativity anymore. I almost feel that you have to go to the UK to get creativity from movies and television. But it's everybody wants to play it safe. It made money before. It can make money again. We just have to pick different people who are familiar to the people that we're looking to market to. And if that's the ball of wax, it doesn't turn me on to want to go see a remake of a movie with younger people in it. It just doesn't.
Yeah, it's an existing property, and they can write it off, and there's an established perception of what it might be, and an established audience of what it might be, less marketing costs.
Exactly.
It's a total business. It's a total business thing, and it's the brand before the content, unfortunately, and that's why I think movies have been suffering, because when a good idea comes out, something original, interesting, it can become viral, even if it's insipid.
Well, I was just say, I think that's why Wonka is still in the theaters, even though it's out on DVD, because there were so many original things in that movie. I mean, who milks a giraffe? I don't know if you saw the movie, but it was so creative and such a visual. The music, I didn't know it was a musical, and I was so blown away by it. It's
a musical. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a musical, and the message is never giving up on your dreams, and that through anything, everything's possible. And it was about connection, about sharing, about believing in yourself. And to me, it was such a refreshing movie. It was so delightful. And the humor, it was hysterically funny. It was British humor. And I enjoy British humor. It just was silly and funny. Yeah. And it was magical. It was really, I saw it twice, and then I just bought the DVD, but I'd love to see it again in the theater, because there's something about that magic. And
magic. Big screen.
I think, when I was a kid, and I would imagine, Eric, that you may have been like this. I used to sit and I'd watch the sunlight stream through the window and all the little dust particles and the magic and the prisms and all of those things that ignited my imagination. And I'd love for you to just speak about that. Like when you first, and we're all unique and we all have our own gifts that we bring to the world. But, if I were to be able to get inside your head, like how you see color, do you feel like that when you see something, it just, like you said, you really, really love the color orange? And do you surround yourself with that? Do you, like Michael has a pair of orange shoes that he loves to wear. They make him feel happy. So I'd just love to hear about sort of how you observe the world, and if we could have a peek through the Eric Alexandrakis lens of life.
That's pretty scary, probably. But no, I daydream. I daydream a lot. Like I will remember stuff,
Fabulous.
And I will. I think the past is as important as the future. Like you can't move forward without looking behind you. And, there are people who are like, I never look back. That's not true. Anybody who says that just is lying to themselves, because you cannot, then you need to be making the same mistakes over and over again, so, you look forward. But like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. I kind of live a lot in my head. So I don't feel like I have to surround myself with too many things. So, I have a box of orange flowers on one of my desks that one of my best friends gave me for birthday like 2 years ago, and it hasn't died yet. It's like those immortal flowers. You've probably seen them, and they're still like perfectly vibrant. So there's like a splash of that, and then there's like, photos of the family, and then there's like my kids' drawings, which I absolutely love to collect those, that he's been doing since he was little, and little model cars that he made himself. But I'm always surprised at people who hang guitars on the walls.
Yeah.
I think that's just the worst thing ever. Like it pisses me off. For me, I look at it, I'm like, that's a tool. Okay, it looks cool. That's a tool. But that's like, I would not hang up my screwdrivers. I like to look at them, but I always thought that was
people
a little weird.
do.
Yeah,
they hang their screwdrivers up in their garage. They're tools.
They do. Yeah, I mean it's a good way to like know where they are and all that. I don't know. For me, that's kind of weird, but I don't know. I spend a lot of time and a lot of inward time thinking about just everything. My wife says I'm very moody, and I can be. And sometimes I'm just kind of lost in my thoughts, whereas somebody might think I'm ignoring them, which I'm not, or maybe I am. You never know. But, I'm constantly kind of thinking of things I saw, songs I heard, experiences from the past. I wonder what happened to that person. Remember when that person did that? Why, where is this person? Why did they act this way? It's just a big kind of pool of content from experiences and things around me, and it's all kind of jumbled up in a big salad, and it's just kind of like my mind is basically like taking the big spoons and constantly mixing it up, and then adding new ingredients. So the past is never the past. It's always kind of the present as well. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to describe, but there's a lot. There's no like I'm only looking forward. That's part of it. But I just feel like moving forward, all of that from the past and all of that around you is part of that forward moving process. And so I'm always thinking about pretty much everything. So,
I
can't
I
turn
don't
off.
know. I mean, I look at I forget the minutia and remember the important stuff. There's a lot of what happens in a day that you don't need to carry into the next. It's just it'd make your life backpack pretty heavy.
My closest friends are always amazed at my memory. So, I can remember, and I think it's because of music, because I place moments in time according to what music came out. And then there are times where music wasn't very good, in my opinion, and I don't remember at all what was happening during those times. So it's like, do you remember that shirt? Remember that white belt you wore with the pink pants? And oh my God, how do you remember that? I'm like, I have no idea how or why I remember that.
So awesome.
But I remember that, and I remember Never Surrender by Corey Hart was on the radio. And that's kind of how it is. So, like
you remember dates with music.
I remember dates with music, and I remember the craziest, smallest details, down to like belt and shirt patterns that people were wearing in like 8th grade. And then you wonder, like, well, did that moment mean something to me? And is that why I remember it? It's like, I don't know. Some did, some don't. It just made an impression, or it was worn by somebody who was special. And I just remember that person's wardrobe. So, yeah, like I'm very minutia consumed in some ways. A lot of useless information.
Well, I think I was going to say, I think it's your attention to detail, and it's almost as though you're tasting. I mean, it's a different form of synesthesia, but it's almost like you're tasting and experiencing through the vibrations of the music. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to sample that texture. Oh, I like that shade, and it's being kind of hardwired into your brain. And like, so maybe when you see, and this is just my thought, but maybe when you're seeing something in that shade, it brings you back to that moment that can bring out the next creative song, that it'll just start streaming in your head. I don't know exactly how the writing process goes, but I would imagine that you're like, okay, this would be really cool to put together. And whether it's tied to a moment in time or a texture or color or a taste or an experience.
Very good point. The creative process is that. It's different.
Yeah, exactly. Like that Dance Like It's 1984 project, it started finding the first song I ever wrote, which was written for somebody, and then I didn't give it to them. I chickened out. I wrote it like 2 days after my 18th birthday. And then it got lost forever and ever and ever, and I found it again like maybe 10 years later and added some things and then lost it again. So it was basically lost for like 28 years if you put all the times it's gone. And then I heard it and I was like, wow, this is actually kind of cool and catchy and fun. And that sparked this this kind of homage to my childhood sonically. So, it was the past again that kind of sparked that. And then I just kept coming up with really catchy tunes, and I'm sending it to friends just as a preview. And they were, their reaction was really surprising, because it's often difficult to judge your own stuff. I mean, I know when something's good, I know when something's crap, but when you hear it,
right?
From somebody else, and that person, and it's a genuine thing, then it motivates you even more, and then you realize you're onto something.
True.
But if I hadn't found that, I probably would have never made that album. So it's interesting how the emotional connection to certain things drive you to pretty much do anything. But
it is the process. It is the process.
As your friend Shatner says, go boldly, right? Go boldly into everything.
He's amazing. I mean, there's never going to be another artist as accomplished as he is ever, I don't think, in the history of mankind. I mean, somebody really has to kind of be born and bred to accomplish what he's accomplished. I mean, so many shows, all his books, all his this, all that. He went to freaking space, for God's sake. I mean, he's an amazing guy. I remember the first time I sat down with him, I was like, oh my God, he's Captain Kirk. With curiosity, the kind of drive, the way you'd hear Kirk just make his speeches and things. And of course, artists and actors bring their own personalities to the roles and all that. But, you're like, he's playing a role or whatever. But then sitting down, you're like, wow, like there wasn't much separation between the curiosity and the intelligence of Kirk that, difference between him and Shatner. Like, it's literally the same guy. It's who he is.
Wow.
It's who he is. And that's why it's always worked, because it's you look at anybody who is genuine like that. Genuine, right? And you're like, wow, it's who he is. And that is I keep saying that's the reason my brother got the role of Tuvok, because that's who he is in real life.
Really?
Basically. Yeah, that's exactly the way he is. He's incredibly logical, very smart. Probably the only difference is that Spock was unemotional. So, I mean, my brother is passionate.
Well, supposedly.
Yeah. Passionate about things. But I mean, Shatner and others like him who are icons in the entertainment business are when they can come on film and be the same person. They don't really separate. It's not this persona that you get. You get that person. And,
even in the writing, though, like Kirk was like literally like a poet, like a historian, like a fan of history, of exploration and adventurous and fearless. He's I'm sure Shatner has some fears and things. I know he has, but like he's the same. He's like a poet. He's like a historian. He's like always an explorer, always. And it's almost like did they know he was like that, and they wrote Kirk to be that? I mean, it's uncanny how similar he is to the character, like all the best parts of the character. And
it is pretty. That is the most amazing question. We've talked about on this show before. I think several times about how your soul has intentions about what it is that it's here to do, and although you have free will to say yes or no, I would venture to say that the young Kirk was driven to do what it is that he did to take the steps that he needed to take to be in the right place at the right time for that, because that was something he was meant to do. And all the things that have happened since then, all the people's lives he has touched, all the people who he has influenced and become a role model for. I mean, gosh, what an amazing life. Look back on, and what is he now, 91? Didn't he turn 91 recently?
92.
92.
Wow.
And still, it's still curious. And if anything we can learn from him, it is that we have to continue to be curious. We have to continue to live by intuition and by our own, by inspiration. We have that keeps you young. It keeps your mind busy. I don't know how much time he sits around thinking about the minutia of life. I would venture to say that it's not much. We see our own mortality in the mirror, and we want to move forward and do things and continue to be inspired, continue to be curious, and continue to ask questions and move forward and learn. And he's an icon and a role model for that.
It's funny because when I first saw Star Trek when I was, I think, 5. My older brother introduced it to me, and I was instantly hooked. And I wanted to be that strong leader educated, fearless, got the girls. It's like the male role model, which is basically wrapped in, the Iliad, the Odyssey, but just in a modern way of storytelling. I always say Star Trek. I think I told this. Star Trek is like the Odyssey. Kirk is Odysseus. It's told. It's just that these stories are now told in a different medium, but they're as important and as impactful. And then growing up and seeing all of the other things that he was doing and all the innovations and just so many different things, the little kid who wanted to be Captain Kirk now became the adult who wanted to be the artist that he is, fearless and innovative and things like that. So it's funny how that kind of changes as you age. And I don't know if he fully understands his impact in that way. I mean, obviously Star Trek did well because you need the right chassis for a motor, or if you don't have the right chassis, then you have a good motor, but then you can't race the cars. So he was the chassis. He had Jeffrey Hunter before him, and that didn't do so well. And then they kind of rebooted, redesigned it, and cast him. And then that did really well because of his kind of leadership role. And not only that, but he's such an extraordinary actor, and people always mock him, and it's because they just don't understand what stage acting is, that he made his co-stars better. So as you see from the early episodes, you have progression with how they interact with him and Spock and McCoy, and he's actually making the cast better because he's such a good leader in his kind of acting role and just presence and stuff. And I don't think he ever gets enough credit for that. I really don't. There are actors who do. He's not the only one, but there are actors. They're in my view, they're few and far between, because he is somebody who does just that, and you can see it. I must have, the show was way before its time, and when I used to watch it in its first iteration, where was I? I think I was. Did your brother watch it? Oh, we all watched it. Yeah. Did you guys watch it together? Like, did you just love it, or watched it together? That's when awesome. We had TV to watch. I mean, it was like I think what year did it come out? I was trying to remember because there was 67. Where I was. When? 66, I think. 66, 67. We were in the Philippines. We had no television. We had to watch it later when it came into reruns. We didn't get back to the country until 1968, and then we were gone again for 3 years, but with no television. And so when it comes to what he encountered, what we encountered, we just fell in love with the concept. I think anybody who watches the show, I've been to convention after convention after convention after convention, in the 90s, and met many of the people. I never met William Shatner, and I never met Nimoy, but I met everybody else. And in many cases got to sit down and have dinner or lunch with them and talk to them in ways. Even Majel Barrett had a chance to sit down and talk with her. Majel Barrett, beautiful people. The forwardness of it is pretty amazing. The fact that the forward thinking, it just so many things. I want to know. To this day, where did all that come from? I know we've only got about 30 seconds left, and I apologize. You got to come back again, and
please,
hang with us. Hang with us because the conversation is always meaningful. But is there something that you'd like to say to end the show? I mean, is there anything you'd like our audience to know that's profound at this particular point about life for you? Just keep on keeping on, and it's easy to get lost. It's easy to get lost in the bad stuff. It's true, it is. It's all around us, So just focus on what makes you happy. That's it.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Great way to end the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
So much joy and gratitude, Eric. Thank you. And
My
we'll have
pleasure.
you back in another couple of months. Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll text, of course.
Yes, we will.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. Enjoy.
All right.
Be well, Eric.
You too.